Look at what the Lord has done. So many reasons to lift up Jesus.
This is Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard from the Christian Culture Center, and I want to welcome you to today's message. Wherever you're listening from, at home, in the car, or on the move, I believe this message is going to challenge, inspire, and help you grow. Now let's get into today's message.
We haven't ministered together in a while.
I know. I'm excited.
This
is great.
I've been just this past week reflecting on the gift of time.
Yes.
And how God gives us stewardship responsibility over our time, our talent,
Yes.
our treasury, relationships that are God-given, and opportunities that God brings our way. And time is where we're all created equal.
Yeah. You say that again. You got to say that again. No matter where you are, economically, socially, ethnically.
Doesn't matter. Time has no respect of your class, your education, your family name, nothing. We all get 24 hours.
Yes.
And it's what we do with the time that makes a difference in terms of how our life turns out. And we must appreciate time as a gift.
Yes.
Time must be understood as a gift. Every day that you wake up and you can now engage another day, that's a gift from God. You know, and as you mature in life, you appreciate the gift of time a little bit more than when you were young, because you're young, you say, I got all the time in the world and I'm going to squander it. And there are people who have a bad relationship with time, you know, and until you get a handle on your time and how you utilize your time, your life is not going to be a life of peace.
Yeah, and it's so true. And you know, the old adage is that time is one thing that you can never store up.
Yeah.
Right. Once it's gone, it's gone. You know, you can't add more to it. And I think as I've gotten more mature and looking at things from a different perspective, your value system is the thing that helps determine how you spend your time.
Come on. How you spend your time is an expression of what you value.
Yes.
What your priorities are, how you spend your time, how you spend your money. Those, you give me your checkbook and your calendar, and I know what's important to you.
Exactly.
You got that?
Yep.
Your checkbook and your calendar. Well, we don't use checks that much anymore. Everything is digital. All right, but you know what I'm saying. Because, how you spend your time and how you spend your money is an expression of what you value in life, what your priorities are.
Yep.
You know, I never forget when your mother, before all the digital stuff, I used to have a handwritten daytimer calendar.
I remember that.
I put your mom's name in there, you know, and she said, why am I in your calendar? You can't remember me? I said, that's why. It's because you're that important, baby.
Yep.
If you're in my book, in my calendar, it's like my Bible.
Yep. And I remember those days. I'm like, Daddy, can we do such and such? Wait, let me go to my book. Okay, it's in. Once it's in there, you know, I said, but Daddy, you write with pencil. You know, that means you can erase it.
Anyway, so, I was thinking also, today's the end of 2023. Next year is 2024. It is an election cycle that we're in, President of the United States, and it is an interesting time. Next year is going to be very, very interesting politically and socially, economically. We're in a good place. We've pretty much weathered inflation, and things are continuing to grow beyond that. It'll be interesting to see how interest rates go. 2025 will start a new leadership cycle in the White House. But 2026 will be the semi-quincentennial of the United States.
Wow.
It'll be the 250th anniversary of our nation. And the question is, how are we going to reach that? How are we going to embrace it? Will it be a continuation of the present divisions and polarizations? Or will it be a point of inflection where we wake up and say, hey, we've got to come together to preserve this union that we want to see as a more perfect union, you know, a place of equality and justice and peace, all that America stands for. So, you know, we're looking at a very important place in time when it comes to the history and progression of our nation. How are we going to celebrate it? Will we celebrate it? Will we celebrate it divided on each side, or will we celebrate it united? You know,
or will people be willing to celebrate it? Right. Because patriotism is low. Right. The connection with the American flag, which symbolized, this level of pride and authority, is not the same as it is.
Yeah.
And as you say, time, I think, look at 2024, we are going to be put into a position, more so the church, of seeing, okay, what do we value, right? And because for the past 2 to 3 years, we've allowed some of the nuanced secondary and tertiary things to divide us. And I think we need to say, okay, what do we value? And that will lead to a place either of unity or more separation.
Yeah. And, look, we've come off of 2 Great Awakenings. Mm-hmm. The first in the early 1700s, but the Second Great Awakening. And the Second Great Awakening, and we're talking about religious fervor and religious commitment that was stirred in the early 1800s, the 19th century, and carried over into the 20th century. That was a moral and ethical revival. And it was characterized by personal salvation, emotional experiences were part of it, and out of that came the Pentecostal and charismatic movements, etc. Also, social reform. Mm-hmm. That was an element. We saw a lot of organizations that were birthed, to hold society accountable for moral standards and ethical standards. And then we saw something in the 1960s and 70s. I got saved in 1975. We saw the Jesus movement. And it was another resurgence of the same attitudes that characterized the Great Awakening. We haven't had a third Great Awakening. There are those who may call the 1960s and 70s the Great Awakening, a third Great Awakening, but really it didn't, do what we thought it would do. There's so much going on. But then we saw the Christian community in America, especially a certain segment of the evangelical community, turn to politics.
Yes.
And I think that's where we began to veer off. This is the 1980s, and tail end of the 1970s into the 1980s. And all of a sudden, political power was going to usher in the kingdom of God. And that's wrong. So, we've got to deal with this political idolatry that we've seen within our nation. And hopefully, as we move towards the 250th anniversary, which is just a short period of time, 2 years, a 2-year window, prayerfully things are going to change.
Yeah, I agree, because looking at the inception of America, and, it wasn't set up as a Christian nation, but the major influence of Christianity.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And some of the divine inspiration that happened as they created the Constitution and designed the government in such a way is something I would like to see come back.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Christianity and the Bible played a very influential role in shaping this nation. We are not constitutionally a Christian nation, which was intentional by the Founding Fathers, because they didn't want a reoccurrence of what took place, the bloodshed that took place in Europe.
Yep.
So they didn't want a state religion, but they wanted the freedom, the liberty, religious liberty, to be part of our nation. But we are definitely ceremonially and culturally Christian here in America. There's no doubt about that. And, I don't apologize for that. I think the Christian social ethic is great. We have to be careful how we try to impose that on a pluralistic society, and a religiously plural and a racially and ethnically plural society. We have to be very careful with that. Tongue-tied here. But I think the Christian social ethic really speaks to who we are as a nation and our national identity. And it respects and honors other religious expressions. Because we begin with the life and dignity of the human person.
Yes.
Right? The common good, the dignity of work, community, all of those things. Those are very, very real. So I don't know how we got off.
I know, right?
We're talking about time. Yeah. And I think we can reflect on time as a gift.
Yes.
And if we were to define time, a simple definition of time is the occurrence of events. But time is a measurable period occupied by events, processes, actions, or conditions that create change or secure continuity. We'll explain that. To create change or secure continuity. Because time is a measure of change.
Yes.
Even no change is a measurement.
Yes.
Because there are times when we don't want change. We want things to continue a certain way, and that is securing continuity. But essentially, time is a measurement of change. And I think about the text in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, all right? And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." And this is all expressing time.
Yes.
And thank God that, time is broken down into minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, because it allows for us to change, to recalibrate, to change our thinking, our perspective, to revisit our sense of vision, meaning, purpose. Those are all important things. And we can do that because of the gift of time. You've heard us say again and again here at CCC that change is the only constant in life. Well, time is the measurement of change.
Yes.
Or no change. And that's important.
It is. And when you look at back in Genesis and the reality that for the human experience, time was needed.
Yeah.
Time played a part in it. And often we are reckless with time.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, beautiful expression. There's a time and a purpose, and a season, rather, for every purpose under heaven. And then it just goes through. If you ever read chapter 3, you'll enjoy it.
Yes.
There's a time for everything. And discerning the times, Jesus said, is important. Understanding the social, political, pop culture, all of the trends that are shaping the current social, political, economic, spiritual narrative within a society. That's what the signs of the times essentially is.
As well as discerning the times of you personally. What are the times and the seasons of your life personally, right? Because too often we think about the macro and we don't look at the micro aspect of what God is doing in our life personally, and we can miss something.
That's important, what you just said. Very, very important, especially in the management of time. One of the things, and we're going to review, because we're going to talk about time and then review occupy.
Yes.
Because that was the key word that challenged so many. And we got great response for that, and we're going to continue talking about occupy. But tonight, we're going to launch our theme for 2024.
Which I'm excited about.
You better make sure you're there. We're going to give some principles, and we're going to dig into this particular theme. But when we think about time and progress and forward movement, time allows us to reflect on the past, pass judgment on it, and then imagine the future, taking the lessons learned from the past and applying them to the imagining of the future.
Yes. My mind just went so many. You sparked so many different ideas and realities, and when we look at time and imagining the future, we also look at I love it because growing up, you taught us this thing called SMART, right? SMART goals, and a part of that SMART is time. What is the time that's going to be needed in order to achieve said goal? Right? And so as we look at judging the past, okay, did that take too long? Right? If it was a good outcome, did it take that long, and could it have been done shorter? Or if it's a bad outcome, say, okay, what took so long? Why, what was I going through when I didn't want to change, or certain things didn't change? And I think retrospectively or introspectively, looking at that, it plays a part in the success of an individual.
Again, and you just go back to what you said about micro and macro.
Yes.
So in my calendar, I had the year at a glance, I had the month at a glance, and I had the week and the day. And the reason I had it like that is because I wanted the big picture view so I can understand, right? So if someone said, I'd like an appointment to meet with you or whatever, I would look at the whole month. Then I'll look at that week. Then I want to know, well, what am I doing the day before or the day after the day that you're asking to meet with me? What am I doing that day? Because otherwise, your calendar just becomes spaces that you fill in without meaning or purpose, without any rhythm to it, and you will burn out real quick if all you do is fill in those boxes and spaces.
And some people get excited because they think that they're busy, right? They're busy doing something, and that's not necessarily good.
Well, there's a wonderful text in Deuteronomy that you and I were talking about, where it's easy. You got the text? Deuteronomy, I think 2:3.
I was studying some other stuff. 2:3?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm there.
Children of Israel.
Yeah.
And that third verse, you could read verses 3 through 8, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 3 through 8. But it's that third verse that I think is really, really critical. What was that third verse?
Do not contend with them, for I will not give you any of their land. Is that the verse?
No, Deuteronomy chapter 2.
2, verse 3.
Verse 3.
You have been traveling around this mountain country long enough.
There it is.
Turn northward.
That's it. That's it. They were going in circles. Never, you've heard this again and again, never confuse movement with progress. Pastor Jamaal talked about being busy.
Yes.
All right, just because you're busy doesn't mean you're progressing.
Yes.
Never confuse movement with progress. Going in circles is movement, but that's not progress. And here God had to check in on his people and that's the thing about it. God will let you go in circles. Did you hear that? God will let you go in circles, and they're going around that mountain. And finally, God said, "Okay, enough with these people. You've been circling this mountain too long enough. It's time to pick a direction and begin to move in that direction." Beautiful, beautiful text. And of course, time as the measurement of productivity.
Yes.
Luke 13, and the parable of the tree. And Jesus, talking about the nation. Luke chapter 13, verse 6. And he told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. And he said to the vine dresser, "Look, for 3 years, time," right? The measure of change. Now, for 3 years now, I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree. Time, a measure of change. There was no change. And that's a measure.
Yes.
Right? And on the fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him, "Sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and put on manure. Then if it should bear fruit next year, well and good. But if not, then you can cut it down." And that's a beautiful expression of God's grace.
Yes.
When God comes to us and he's checking the figs,
Yep.
no figs. All right? What are you going to do about that? The law says cut it down. But grace says no. Let's give it an extra year.
Yes.
In this particular parable. Let's give some time. Let's give the gift of time so that we can come back and measure change.
And where would I be if it wasn't for the love of God?
Come on. The principle that we've taught many years here at Christian Cultural Center, all right, there must be measurable progress in reasonable time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to make some substantial changes. And that's important. You give time for people to change, for things to change, etc. But there comes a point where you have to say, things are not changing. And we've got to cut this off. All right? Or sometimes cut that person off. Jesus said, every branch of me that bears fruit, I'll prune it. Every branch that doesn't bear fruit, all right, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it away. So I think this is very important. Another thing that comes out of this as we're talking about this, there must be measurable progress in reasonable time. All right. You only manage what you measure.
Say it again, please.
You only manage what you measure. If you're not measuring it, you're not going to manage it.
Yep.
If you're not watching your money and your time, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, if you're not measuring it, if you're not measuring it,
yes,
you're not going to manage it. You're just going to let it go and wonder why you've got the financial problems you've got, why you've got the time issues that you've got. That's real. So we manage what we measure.
Yep, we manage what we measure. Write that down. Manage what we measure.
Yeah. Time is a measurement of growth.
Yep.
Personal growth and development, corporate growth and development. You know, we look at CCC, where we've come from, the various challenges that we've had along the way, and changes that we've had to make. You're making some incredible changes in the operations, utilizing the team. I didn't get a chance to say this Sunday before last, but, you know, one person, God takes that person, infuses a vision in their heart, they become the visionary, right? And they manage continuity and change. But as that thing grows and prospers, it outgrows the ability of one person.
Yep.
So now you have to have a team. And if there's anything that you're doing well is utilizing teams. People feel involved, they're measuring success, they're discussing it, and making the adjustments and changes along the way.
And thank you so much. And like I said, you know, I got to give a shout out to my team.
Yeah.
The team has done a great job, and a part of it is helping them manage their time, right? Because if you don't manage your time correctly, you can stifle creativity. Right?
Say that again.
If you don't manage your time correctly, you can stifle creativity.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're so busy, either catching up, making up, fixing some things that, you know, it's okay, you know, if I manage my time, then I have a specific time where I say, okay, I'm intentionally going to be creative at this specific time.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to, and then people, what they do is they borrow from Peter and pay Paul. So they'll take from this hour and put it in that hour, and next thing you know, they still deal with the same issue for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 13 says, for everyone who lives, in fact, let me go back. Verse 12. For though by this time, the Apostle Paul is rebuking, all right, if we ascribe this to Paul, Hebrews, for though by this time you ought to be teachers, so there should be growth and development where not only are you a student, but you can now communicate the things that you've learned. That's why at CCC we're teaching ministry, because we want you to grow.
Yes.
You know, the Apostle Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2, he said, commit these things to faithful men who shall be able to teach others. So we teach so that you can teach.
Yes.
So we're always a student. Sometimes a teacher, but we should graduate. We should move to the level of teaching. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. See? And if you give a baby a steak that the baby doesn't have teeth to chew, what's the baby going to do? Gum it?
You're gnawing it.
What happened here? Come on, people. So, verse 13, for everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he or she is a child. But solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil. And isn't that what life is about?
Yes.
Distinguishing good from evil. I love this text because it makes the demand. It says, hey, you got to grow up.
Yeah.
You got to study the word. You've got to become a disciple of Christ. And we've come through 3 decades of seeker-friendly, which was good that the church was reaching out. But I think what the church did was reach out only and not disciple.
Yeah. It's true, because I think if the church was doing a better job at discipling, what happened during COVID to devastate the church wouldn't have not had the same effect.
Yeah. 100%.
Totally different.
100%.
Yep.
We respond based upon our level of maturity.
Yep.
That's true in ministry. It's true for an organization. It's true for you personally.
You got to say that again. You said we respond
based upon our level of maturity.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And that's why, it's important that you mature. And change is the essence of maturation.
Yes.
You'll never mature unless you're willing to change. You'll never mature unless you're willing to change. People who refuse to change don't grow up.
Yes.
And they remain immature. And they miss out on opportunities that are strictly solid food.
Yes.
Right? There are big opportunities that we call solid food. Everything and everyone in the universe changes but God.
Thank you for listening to Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard of Christian Culture Center. Download the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and visit cccinfo.church for more. We'd love to see you in person. Join us Sundays at 10 a.m. at our Brooklyn or Long Island campuses.